This segment of the Alice Stewart Show is brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing at 1-866-PLUMBER or schedule an appointment online at aeroplumbing.net.
Welcome back to the Alice Stewart Show, 7:35 in the spin room now. We're going to talk about the issues that were discussed on the Sunday morning talk shows yesterday and flesh them out with experts on each side of the aisle. This morning, we are joined with Hogan Gidley, former executive director of South Carolina GOP, senior political advisor at BrabenderCox, Arkansas native, now in South Carolina. Hogan Gidley, and Adrienne Elrod. She is a Democrat strategist, and she just finished a half Ironman yesterday, so congrats to Adrienne. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to start off with the story that's really making headlines all over, and that is up in Missouri, Ferguson, Missouri, and the governor there, Jay Nixon, has ordered the National Guard troops back in that suburb due to increased violence and clashes. It's all erupted as a result of 18-year-old Micheal Brown, who was shot by a police officer recently, and the situation continues to grow more violent. And as of now, at least 7 people have been arrested. 1 person shot and hurt as protesters clash in Ferguson, Missouri. And here's the thing. We have folks calling for calm and peace, yet it is nothing but violence and destruction. And Anthony Gray, who is an attorney for Micheal Brown's family, he was on ABC this week, and he was stressing for peace. And here's Anthony Gray on ABC's This Week.
They want to reiterate their call for calm and peace while we urge for a fair and impartial investigation.
And then we also have Governor Jay Nixon, who is urging and calling for peace and calling out the National Guard. Adrienne, your thoughts on why we're seeing this violence and intensity continuing to grow?
Well, I think it's as simple as this. I mean, this is a community who wants justice, and they're not getting it. You know, Alice, I had several friends who called me, I think it was about a week ago when the protest started. They said, turn on your TV, look at what's happening in Ferguson, Missouri. It looks like the race riots in the 60s. I mean, this is a major, major problem. And, still to this point, a week, 6-7 days later, the community does not have the justice that they feel that they deserve. I mean, we have more questions now than we have answers. The local law enforcement has certainly proven to not only be inept, but incapable of governing and controlling their community. And it's a problem. I think these people want a dialogue with their law enforcement. They want answers, and they're not getting it.
Hogan?
Yeah, I mean, look, I was with some African-American folks, a male and a female, about to go on to a TV show last week in D.C. We were having this conversation, and they were expressing to me the inherent distrust that exists between the African-American community and authority figures, namely police officers and law enforcement. It was a very interesting conversation we had in the green room before the show. I'm not going to get into everything we said in that conversation. But we did kind of bubble up to the surface of the fact that the looting and the riots and the shooting, the behavior, is taking away from the actual case itself. The young man was shot, and we've yet to find out why. And Adrienne touched on the justice of it. One of the things that police officers aren't doing, the police department is not doing, the attorneys are not doing for both sides, is coming out and saying, guys, everybody wants justice. We'll get justice, but it's going to take time. And you'll notice in that green room conversation, I will say this, they were telling me that this kid was shot 35 times in the back. Can you believe that? As if it were fact. Yeah. Now we're finding out that Mike Brown shot 6 times, and not all of it's from the back, from what I've read.
Yeah.
So it's going to take some time to get to the actual bottom and crux of the problem, and no one's saying that. They're expecting justice overnight, and that's not what's happening.
And we also have, now that the folks were initially upset with the fact the name of the police officer was not released more quickly, and that was slowly rolled out. And also, as the same day that his name was released, the officials there released video of Micheal Brown, who was seemed to be strong-arming at a convenience store, stealing some cigars. And those that are there in the region, Al Sharpton, for one, civil rights leader, spoke out about this, saying that he says that putting out this video was wrong. It was defamatory to this victim here. And Al Sharpton is there in Ferguson criticizing the way this has been handled, but specifically being critical of the victim, Micheal Brown. Here is Reverend Al Sharpton.
There's nothing more contemptible and offensive to the people of this country than for law enforcement to try to smear a dead man or dead child that can't speak for themselves.
All right, when we have Al Sharpton coming there and the Black Panthers coming there, do you see this, Hogan, as just inciting more violence? I don't see it helping at all, but it just adds fuel to the fire.
Well, last night we had riots after Al Sharpton spoke. So either you can only draw one of two conclusions, right? Either Al Sharpton is completely ineffective as a leader in the African American community, or he has a part in inciting some type of violence. Okay, neither one of those are necessarily good for him. And look, I'm a friend. Al Sharpton and I are friends. I've been on the show many times, but it's ironic for him to say it's so contemptible and offensive to smear a dead person. He's right, by the way. But they are doing the same thing to the police officer. The police officer has constitutional rights. There's a reason his name wasn't released this early, because it was such a powder keg waiting to explode. So the smart thing that the department has done, really one of the only smart things, is to keep this guy's name quiet, at least for a certain amount of time. But again, everybody's got rights here. And to say that for some reason we're condemning the cop but letting the kid off is a little bit silly. That's the point. We've got to wait and find out the facts before we overreact to speculation and hearsay.
Adrienne?
You know, and I do agree with Hogan. I think in a perfect world, yes, we would wait. We would, the community would be patient, and they would understand that it takes a while for these facts to come to light, and we just have to deal with that. But, the problem, too, is that the local law enforcement are just confusing things when they release a video, when the police chief releases a video that does not provide any answers, that actually causes more confusion. And regarding, Reverend Al, I mean, this is what Al Sharpton does. He comes into communities when there is a conflict between blacks and whites, and whether or not we want to say that he tries to diffuse the situation, I'm not going to sit here and defend what his actions, but I will say that, he is a voice that the black community in Ferguson knows and respects. And that's what they want. They want justice. They want respect. They want to feel like their voices are being heard. And, for the Reverend to come in there and do that, yes, perhaps maybe it did, incite more violence than not. But, these people want to be heard. And he was somebody who came in and, at least showed that someone is out there caring about their thoughts and feelings and their position on this.
But I have to say, but violence never begats respect, and in this particular instance, it sure is not going to begat justice.
And I think what we're seeing, what Reverend Sharpton says, is being a lot of folks are sharing that sentiment, concern over the release of video. Governor Jay Nixon on NBC's Meet the Press yesterday, and he also had concerns about how the local authorities were handling this. Here is Governor Nixon yesterday.
We and our security team and the Highway Patrol did not know that was going to be released. I don't think the Attorney General knew that. And quite frankly, we disagree deeply. I think for two reasons. Number one, to attempt to, in essence, disparage the character of this victim in the middle of a process like this is not right. It's just not right.
So last question here on this. Adrienne, your thoughts. Okay, it wasn't handled properly. The release of information wasn't handled properly. What can possibly be done now that it's done? Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. What do you see as a solution to calming the violence here? Because it continues to escalate.
Well, I think, again, in any situation like this, you have to take action, or the law enforcement has to take action in order to, show that there is some form of justice. And in this case, I think it's firing the local police chief, or putting him on, unpaid leave, or, whatever tactic is taken, but at least showing that you're doing something to, move the situation forward and punish people who have not handled the situation properly. So, in my view, at least taking baby steps toward finding a solution, and one of those can be, temporarily or permanently removing him from office.
Hogan?
Right, yeah, and you can remove him from office. Adrienne's exactly right, and that has nothing to do with the violence that's ensued. It has to do with incompetence at their level, at that level, and on many occasions, and this is one of them. And look, we're in this business, Allison, right? Alice, when we talk about releasing things and leaking things to the press, it's because we want to get a certain result. Obviously, this guy was releasing this video to the press to try and disparage this guy, Mike Brown, and make him appear as though he was just a common criminal, okay? Now, that may or may not be the case. We don't know that yet. But the fact is it backfired, and it made people more angry and more upset. And this is why the process has not been adhered to, and this is why we've got a problem down there, is because people aren't being honest. They're resorting to dirty tricks and leaking videos to try and get what they want, instead of going to the people, explaining the situation, and hoping and praying that they respect it and say, we're going to get justice. We're going to bring in somebody from the outside to investigate this case and give the people what they want.
I think that's key, and we have Attorney General Eric Holder is also requesting a second autopsy, so we're going to have outside eyes looking at this, and we'll see if the president addresses this today from Washington. We're going to take a break and come back, and we will discuss the foreign policy that is on the agenda in Washington as well, specifically Iraq. We'll take a break. We'll have more with Adrienne Elrod and Hogan Gidley after this. This segment of the Alice Stewart Show brought to you by Arrow Plumbing for all of your household or business plumbing needs. Call Arrow Plumbing 1-866-PLUMBER or schedule an appointment online at arrowplumbing.net.